Welcome to Puffery, a fresh perspective on why ADVentura. I'm happy to have you guys here with me today and join us on the treasure hunt where the map is always written after we've arrived and the treasure is always banded at the ADV shield. On today's episode, we have a very special guest with us, Henderson Ventura, co-founder of ADVentura, and we're going to answer some really great questions to dig a bit deeper behind the brand. So hope you guys are ready. Grab your favorite blend and join us as we uncover why ADV. Henderson, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Everything was great here. First time doing the ADV show.
Yeah, this is such a great intro. I love that we got the first taste of true Dominican Wi-Fi with the pause. That was like, could not have been better.
Right.
Take us back to your childhood in the factory. What are some of your earliest memories of cigars and how have they shaped your passion for the craft?
My childhood in the factory. Wow. Can't remember the first time I went to a cigar factory. I was like 7 years old. I went taking a tour in the factory, going to the engagement room, the running area, the galera. I used to love the smell of the factory and the tobacco. That was something that I really liked. And some of the guys that was giving me a tour, they showed me like the room that they were doing fermentation. And they told me like, you can see from here. I was like, no, I don't have a problem with tobacco. I can go inside. So I went inside and I have the worst headache ever. With the ammoniac, the strongest smell of tobacco that I never was supposed to. From my family talking tobacco, the new crop, the new blends. They were talking very highly about some cigars and they were smoking the cigar I always was beside my dad. And just the aroma just fascinated me so crazy that I want to try a cigar. Like I want to feel like what was the taste like when and experience what they're talking about. And yeah, there always was a memory about the smell of the factory and the tobacco. I remember when I used to stop going to the factory for a while, and then I go back to the factory just by the door of the factory to get the smell of the tobacco, just create that memory that is just fascinating for me. But when I was 12, I would say that was like when I started to do little jobs in the factory on the summer breaks, learning how to do the sorting for tobacco. I fall in love with the aroma. I think like I started to recognize tobacco just by smelling it. And that was like pretty much like what motivated me and give me the passion for tobacco. Those early days, being around the people, seeing my dad, loving what he does.
Yeah, absolutely.
So my first job when I went to the factory when I was 12, like my dad, they showed me like for a day or two how to do the sorting, like this leaf that is a little thicker, this leaf that is a little thinner, or darker, lighter. And my dad told me, okay, sit down there and do this. I was like, how do I need to do that? He was like, well, you finish that belt. I was okay, that's easy. It took me like 3 days to finish one belt. And to do that process fast. And so I was like stopping looking at the leaf every time.
Oh my gosh. Hilarious. Baptism by fire for sure. Thanks, Dad.
Yeah.
Good lesson learned.
That was my first thing to learn. But I have done like they showed me everything, how to work everything in the factory. I learned every single process, do the deveining, taking the steam out the center of the wrapper, do the sorting for the wrapper, colors, everything. Great. So by the time I was 17 that I took my first full-time job in the factory, like I already knew the whole process.
You already had like 5 years experience on the job.
Yeah. The only thing that I learned after that, I was running cigar, making a bunching and how to roll a cigar.
Interesting.
So, yeah. And that was something that I got like very crazy about. You know, when you get like that fever of like do something, that was for me like a Hudson roller cigar. It was like every day, like just every day, just like pushing those guys in the factory, like come on, show me, like
Mm,
I'll let me sit at the table, you know.
yeah.
So I was running every day 3 cigars. That's how I started. Every day running 3 cigars for years. And then I was doing competition with a brother who can roll the best cigar. So that's a good memory from the early days. You know, the people, um, how cool the people in the factory. It's a job that it can be very stressful, but it can be very fun at the same time.
Yeah. I think that's also fun to remember, like, before you take on the responsibilities of, like, being a brand and paying the bills and meeting deadlines, like, to have that, like, the actual just joy of the craft only, like, just immersing yourself in the craft and making that the best possible thing, and that's the only thing you have to worry about, right? And then, yeah. I mean, the reward is there's no other, right? But the compounding responsibility, I'm sure, can sometimes weigh a little differently and make those memories even more special.
Yeah, way different. The only thing, you know, it was like those jobs there that like 8 to 5, you know. My job in the factory was like 6 in the morning, be in the factory. Uh I need to be the first there like all the time. I was the first to get in the factory, the first to leave because I used to work and go to college at the same time. So by 4:30 I was leaving the factory, but I have to like get done everything before I go.
Mhm.
So yeah, it was like good days
Yeah, definitely.
of how to build a character for a more responsible adult, right?
Yeah, yeah. So we know that you were really interested in philosophy and history, and do you see any parallels between that and blending and what you're doing now?
Not just blending, but everything in my career. I will say it was very helpful. The philosophy was very helpful for my career in the tobacco, my career into a family business, and that was a key point. I think like if it wasn't because all my started with the philosophy, I couldn't accomplish like all the progression that we've been doing through all those years. I got frustrated. I was this kid like reading 2 books, 3 books a week. It was like I started to read the book and until I didn't finish that, I couldn't stop. And I feel like frustrated because we have a very small factory, boutique factory. I was feeling like my dreams were just getting stuck in that factory there, dealing with the rollers, with the people. So it's in tobacco. It was like I thought that was something too small for my brain. And I got frustrated like for over a year. Then into that frustration that I had every day, I was like, I started to see life in from a different point of view. I was like, do you know what? Not every time you end up doing what you love. Even people sometimes get married with people that they not really love. They just maybe they lost their love for their life or whatever, and the circumstance put them with another person, right? And I feel like, but do you know what? Do you know what? Like, you can end up like loving what you do.
Hmm.
And as soon as I changed my perspective of life, like everything changed for me. So I started to look at the tobacco way different. I started to engage more with the factory, to give more 100% of me, putting my interest to learn more every day. And one of the main things, like one of my favorite book that I ever read in my life is called The Art of Prudence. And the art of prudence is more about you started more like the behavior of the human beings.
Hmm.
And we work with people. I mean, at some point we have like over 200 people involved in all the company we have. And you have to be dealing with people. So people maybe that they did maybe as 7th grade in the school, and you need to pick up their brain. And I have to pick up also the brain of the old people from the industry. They have a character and they have like a theory about tobacco or anything, and they don't want to change that. Like there's no more new innovation. So that was something that frustrated me a lot. Been dealing with my dad that he's like a 30 something years old older than me. He comes from another generation. He comes from another timing of the industry when he got popped up and they were smoking mild cigar. I was trying to make them understand like social media, full body cigar in the United States, not Europe anymore. So all those knowledges that I learned from that book, how to deal with the human behavior in different situations. That was something that helped me to deal with my family business in a good way.
This is
So also like Aristoteles from his book like political, there was some stuff that I take in my life or from that book, and it's like they were mentioned on that book like the let's say the state or the country before the family, and the family is before the every member of the family, before the father, before the dad. So that's how I deal with my business, like the companies before this department or this on myself, on Marcel, on Nicole, is ADVentura first and then everybody else.
mm-hmm.
And that's the only way that you can work for the best of the company and you can take care of like the interests of the company. So
Sure.
this is something that I always have in mind.
Yeah.
And I tell also to my employees, it's not about that you like or you don't like, it's the best for the company.
Yeah. And
it's not the easier for you, it's the best for the company.
Absolutely. And I think also compartmentalizing, like putting things in the box that they belong in so that you don't mix them essentially and let the emotion of one box take over the decision making where it doesn't belong. So I think that's something really important and that we differentiate as a team, knowing specifically what our strengths are and how we lend support to the other to make one goal and one vision for our brand.
Yep.
Speaking of your family or the family, growing up in the Ventura family, what values or lessons from your parents do you still carry with you today as a blender and a brand owner?
First of all, from the blending side, my dad, I was very square in terms of blending. Like if that tobacco, if I'm using like that tobacco, I use like let's say a Korean 98, like every year should be from that farm, right? I was square about it, and he was like a Henderson. I know your intention for consistency, but by the end of the day, you want the result. Like it's a good cigar. So if this year the tobacco from that farm is not the best, you can switch to another farm. You can gonna have the same stimulation, but you need to take care of the quality, not just the consistency. So that was like something that I was very square about it. So I take that from my dad. And the other thing is like to be responsible, to take care to make sure that everything's get done, to make sure that every supplier get paid on time, that we delivery on time, that all those kind of things, and also the ethic of work that is not just behind a desk, to be more on the floor, because any accountant, any finance guy can run numbers from the company, but not everybody have a career for tobacco. So it's very important for us, to be in the floor, in the factory, in the warehouse, making sure that we getting done everything on the right way.
Yeah, that's great. Let's shift over a little bit to the art of blending now. So we know we mentioned that our kind of trilogy that we aim for and our philosophy of blending is always to hit that balance, complexity, harmony trio. When you sit down to create a new blend, where do you start and how do you know you've achieved those three things?
I normally start to discover like a new flavor profile. That is my main thing. And then after I discover the new flavor profile that I can achieve is more like to balance out the cigar into a more enjoyable experience for the cigar smoker. Because sometimes you can have something very unique, something very different, but not necessarily that means that can be very enjoyable. That's gonna be a cigar that you want to smoke back to back. So first of all, it's like achieve that, pick up that flavor that's unique and different, and make it into that well balanced and complex cigar. So you can create a cigar that people can enjoy back to back.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely, and I know that you already know this from the previous podcasts, but I use cooking a lot as an example because, the knowing your ingredients and what you have on the table, then when you know how to properly combine them, that's what creates that ultimate experience, right? Of those perfect flavors and all those nuances that make your signature.
Yeah, but that's an exercise, that it take an everyday effort. Facing a single pure tobacco all the time, blending is like like an export. You need to train your palate. So by the end of the day, you can have some idea just stuff that you smoke and you can make a blend from that.
Yep. Now, how do you go about understanding each tobacco's personality, so to speak? Is there a specific leaf or region that you find most challenging or exciting to work with?
I mean, I try everything. Um, I love to try new stuff most of the time. I like Dominican tobacco the most, but I also there is some region like the U.S. that you can get like a very interesting tobacco, but they don't have many variety there. So normally the tobacco is something that take every year like a new experience, even with the same tobacco, the crop. Sometimes you have country that improve like their seed every year to get a better yield in the farms, and you need to be tasting the tobacco because it's not for the farmer. They're looking for the yield of the farm, and the manufacturer is looking for the flavor of that tobacco.
Right.
So you always need to try to balance that out. And that's also one of the reasons because we started to grow our own tobacco because we don't want to sacrifice the flavor through the years because we're looking for better yields in the farm. For me, it doesn't matter how much it costs to create a great cigar, is to get it done in the right way. So you always every year are in that job of trying to keep the best tobacco as possible.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's great. What would you say defines your personal blending style?
My personal blending style, I would say, is complexity, character, elegance, and that's the three main things that I will say that define my style blendings.
We were fortunate enough to make some really great lists this year with a few of our blends. So I found it interesting And I believe Charlie was mentioning this from Half Wheel, that 60% of the consensus, the cigars came from Nicaragua. What would you say lends to the differentiation, and is the Dominican Republic up and coming in that, or is this just a matter of, like, why is that? Do they have have they been in the business longer? What's leading to that?
There's one of the main reason for that is like Nicaragua, like the new country that popped up in the cigar industry. So that being said, back in 2009, 2010, 2011, it was like when the boutique industry started to pop up. And Nicaragua was that country that was popping out for full body cigar, more stronger tobacco. And pretty much all the boutiques and the new people that got into the industry by that time, they went to Nicaragua because they were like the boutique country, they were the new thing. And I would say pretty much all the new companies that been innovating into the cigar industry, they were based in Nicaragua. And Dominican Republic, there were like a big group of people that they were like the major producers of cigar in the whole world. You have all the big guys. And I think through the last decade, most of those big companies, the owner been getting old. They're not being innovating into the cigar industry. They still have the same blending style from back in the 80s and 90s. Even like the art of the design for their packaging is stay like a pretty much the same, more old school. There's not been a lot of new innovation. And now I will say after the pandemic, you have like a million new factories that open up in the Dominican Republic. But a lot of people with no experience that haven't paid enough time to start the market, to start the industry, and learn from the industry. They just put in cigar because there were like a kind of a new boom with the cigar industry after in the. So I would say that we have that combination of a lot of new people that they don't know what they're doing, and old people that they just stick to what works for them in the past.
Yeah.
And Nicaraguan is being more like innovating,
Forward thinking.
putting more energy into the cigar industry, and yeah, I think that that's the reason.
Yeah.
But I'm very proud, to be that we are one of the very few Dominican brand, that make some of those lists, and that also put us like one of the top company in the country, producing premium cigars.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it was an honor to be next to some of those names for sure. That's something that we can nod our hats to. And speaking
we're gonna, it's good to represent our country.
100%. Yeah, 100%.
It's good to represent our country. I'm gonna make sure that we make great things, to keep the Dominican name, up there.
Yeah, front and center. And it's not like there aren't legacies coming from there already, but, I just thought that was an interesting point that Charlie made when that list came out. And I thought, really wonder why that is, but makes sense. It makes sense, all the points you made. Yeah. Challenges and resilience. Let's talk about this just for a small, brief moment, because it is a part of our history. It does not define us, but it is something that we had to do and gave us a lot of pivotal choices and options in our growth so far. But the fire. When the fire destroyed your family's factory, how did you process that loss professionally and personally, and what gave you the strength to move forward?
I would say in the first hour of I would say during the morning of that fire, I feel like my whole world went down. It was like it was the end of the war, and then in the afternoon, I feel the responsibility, to produce those cigars for our clients, that we can take this as a loss, that we need to move forward and be responsible and deliver those cigars that we have pending to produce, to deliver. That was my first thought. And also, the thing that gave me the energy was two things. So first of all the support for a lot of people that show the love to us. Wow. And that gives me a good feeling, so to keep doing what I'm doing. And secondly, I would say we are not built to last.
It is.
That's been my career. That's been what my whole family do for their whole life. We don't have any member of the family that do nothing different. That is a mechanic or a lawyer or this. We are all tobacco people. And we're not going to lose that. So I feel all the knowledges, all the effort that we've been putting to build this factory and to build great blends and great tobacco, it was something that nothing can take from us in life.
Yeah. Yeah.
And less of fire, So it was a challenge, like to feel ourselves, in a better way.
Yeah. And I mean, I know that was at the time, I know that we all kind of felt like shocked and that first effect of it, but somehow through when a little bit of time went by, we saw that there was a silver lining, and that was the opportunity to push us to branch out and build our own factory. I'm sure that was a huge and hard decision for you to make, to kind of pivot away from your family's legacy factory. But what was the hardest part about that transition, and what gave you the courage to kind of rip that Band-Aid off and go?
I mean, the hardest part for that was like I never had the intention to build another factory beside my family's. That was like my baby. I grew up in that factory, since I was 17 years old. Everything that I have, I took like my early energy from my teenager time, working very hard, even 18 hours a day to make things happen, and building a team for years and years. And I think for me to go away from my team, that we built like for decades, and also like kind of like bring the why the for me it was like giving up at some point. But the thing is, like, we were so tired with production with the family factory that there was no way that we couldn't keep ADVentura alive if we don't make a move.
This is.
And also like even for the other clients. So for me in the beginning, it was like a more temporary decision, but then I don't know how to do things on the halfway, and we just built
Yeah.
a nice boutique factory. And then I feel like, yeah, that's a new beginning. For me, it was like the fire killed the old Henderson, and a new Henderson came out. And for me, it was like a new life, a new beginning, starting from zero. And I think when people told me when the fire happened, like everything happened for a reason, I was like, yeah, which reason to God?
Yeah.
What good reason can come for that? That was the only thing that came to my brain. But I think like maybe that was like the reason, to start a new era of Henderson Ventura in the cigar industry. Maybe not be like Williamson anymore.
Right.
Be build my own lane. I don't know.
Yeah. No, 100% agree. Let's talk about working with Marcel for a minute. Your partnership with him. How do your different backgrounds and strengths complement each other in building the brand?
I'm Dominican. I say a lot, but that just, I would say, I would compliment as a partner. This guy very passionate what I do with tobacco. I spend 100% of my time working with tobacco and building. I feel like I spent my whole life also like building business, and I have like a that fire in my heart that pushes me like do more, do more, and do more. Marcel is this guy, very laid back. The calculation, be right, what can go wrong if we make any moves. He come with numbers all the time. I can come with ideas and the energy, like let's push, let's go. But I sometimes I don't make any numbers. I just have like the intuition, of what we can get done. And this guy is all about number precision, and that's why we call it the minute Swiss precision. He to play around, uh, and he have everything straight. Uh, Beside that, we both share the same philosophy to create premium high-end product and take this to the next level. So he's very creative with packaging, history, a lot of crazy ideas. Um, I feel like I'm a very creative guy, but I'm being focused more my energy into that tobacco. I also have a lot of experience with developing brands and stuff like that. So I think we do a good complement of his new, fresh idea of whatever he have and my experience in the industry, and we can shape that together. It's never like I feel very proud of our partnership because we both have like a different way of how we operate and way different ideas, but when you respect each other in a nice, never feel like in almost 10 years, I never feel like we have any like measuring the power of like, yeah, like I'm smarter as now my idea is the best. No, no, no. Like, what do you have? What did I have? Like, okay, let's put it together. Let me see your idea. Yes, I like it. Oh, I don't like it. Well, so it's very, very good.
Agreed. I definitely enjoy watching it for sure.
But the best for myself, I will say his wife, is been like the middle point that also match everything in a better way for us. So
Thank you.
his wife plays like a big game in this partnership now. And I would say it took a different direction.
I'm just happy to be a part of the team. That's for sure. And that's the whole reason why I wanted to start this podcast, is because I feel like you guys have so much depth into what you produce, and it's fascinating to watch and undeniable that the synergy between you two can only create great things. And so I really wanted to find a way to share that with more people. So this was my way of doing it, and I hope it does reach the ends of the earth as I'm anticipating. How do you transfer, because you spend so much time yourself in tobacco and really feeling and learning and trying new blends and getting nuances together, how do you pass on that mentorship and teamwork to every department in the factory, to the teams there?
I think that's in the atmosphere, you know. That's why when I say like I don't know how to do things in the halfway, Um, I will say every corner from this factory, it can tell you like we get things we get things done in the right way.
Mm-hmm.
I also like express myself very well with everyone in the company. Like we're not in a rush to get anything done. We are passionate to do quality product. And when you tell them, when they see the tobacco, the quality of the tobacco, the there's no pressure on them to make quantities. The only pressure that they get is like to create quality
Mm-hmm.
product. That family style of managing the company also, like everybody feel engaged and part of this project, and I make sure that everybody understands the philosophy of quality that we want to build here.
Okay.
So I have this concept for a cigar, I explain everybody the concept, what we're looking for. I make it pretty much everyone here is a cigar smoker. I let them try the cigar and let them try the blends, and they go, "Wow, this is like a good and different."
Mm-hmm.
And I'm go to them. This is something that never can change. We create quality, and that never can change. You need to enjoy that cigar. When you have in the table a cigar that you don't like, call me.
Yeah.
We can have the luxury to have a bad cigar.
That seems kind of tricky also when you're so focused on like creating something and doing your job, so to speak, right? To take that time to really recognize and realize what you're smoking and what you're tasting. And instead of just like smoking to smoke, right? To really stop and think about what you're smoking and say like, wait, something's not right here. Or, wow, this is really brilliant. We need to pause for a second and recognize that.
Mm-hmm.
As for the future of blending, what really excites you most? Is there any new techniques or tobaccos or any ideas that you're currently exploring or working on?
They always a new idea, but one of the things that excites me the most is like growing the tobacco
Mhm.
and and making sure like our stack of tobacco is bigger every year. That's something that excites me, that we can keep the consistency of the cigar, that we know what we have. We know the age of the tobacco we have. We know the quality of the tobacco we have. Other than that, I can create like the best blend in the world. That's happened to a lot of manufacturers. They can create amazing blends, but they cannot keep it.
Uh,
So for me, the most exciting thing is that like, yeah, we're working, but at the same time, our stack of tobacco is getting bigger, older, better aroma, more defined flavor, more consistency, no headache trying to figure out where we can get the tobacco. So that's the most exciting thing for us. Uh, we're not saving money here. We're saving tobacco.
that's right. Don't I know?
Yeah.
That's so great. What is the most experimental blend that you've ever created? And are there any blending rules that you found are worth breaking?
One of the most experimental blend that I have done, it was back through my beginning of start blending tobacco. Most of the master blender and the old school, they blend their cigar like Seco, Viso, Ligero, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the how do you say, the harmony of a blend, it should be the same as the percentage of tobacco that a tobacco plant can give you, right? You can get maybe 20% Ligero in a plant. You get like 40% Viso, and you get like 40% Seco. So people back in the day used to blend that 40% Seco, 40% Viso, 20% Ligero. That's a natural way to create a blend. So you can use like all the tobacco. So the most experimental way was for me like to break the rules from then. Because when I started to taste like a pure tobacco, I fell in love a lot with the ligero. And for me, the ligero, even if it was a higher in nicotine, not necessarily was like the most spicy tobacco, was the most flavorful tobacco. So I started to blend cigars like 100% ligero. So when I mentioned like to people and to my dad, like this cigar is made with 100% ligero filler, and he was like, "Are you crazy?" Or people were like, "That they're gonna have a good combustion, or that's gonna be too strong." And first of all, with the thing with the combustion, when you create a cigar, people always have that challenge to create a good quality cigar just by center properly the ligero right in the middle of the cigar, so it can create the pirolis. So you always you're gonna see like most of the cigar they burn the outside faster, and you have like a point like right in the middle that stay a little bit longer. That's why the ligero is burning slower. It have a slower combustion than the seco. So when you have 100% ligero, it's gonna have a slower combustion the whole cigar, and it's gonna burn even because all the tobacco have the same amount of oil, and it's gonna be more even. Not like at the center point doing the pirolis in the center, none of that. Nothing wrong with that. And the other thing, when you have 100% ligero, the amount of oil on the cigar is bigger. The seco, the combination of the seco, viso, and ligero, you have the seco that is like tobacco that have a very lower amount of oil. Then the viso have a little bit bigger amount of oil, and then the ligero that have the most oil. You get most of the flavor of the tobacco you get from the natural oil of the tobacco, right? The aroma, you get more aroma from the seco, less oil. When you create the cigar 100% ligero, you get much more flavor than anything, and less spice. When you get the combination of the seco and the ligero, that fast combustion, it gives you like a sensation of spicy because you getting more smoke and you getting more heat into your mouth and give you that sensation of spice. So it can be like a higher nicotine cigar, but not necessarily a spicier cigar if you have the properly aging and fermentation. So it was very cool, to break those rules and do like a different style blending. And yeah, that was like some of the most experimental things that I have done with the cigars blending.
And worth it, obviously. So
Yeah.
that's cool.
And then the second one and the last one that I did was like one of the last cigar that we released that we were blending tobacco from 5 different countries, different continents. It was like Africa, Europe, North America, Central America, South America. We were all around. So to combine like flavor from all different regions apart and this world, it was very cool. Not that much of the Caribbean people used to blend a lot like Dominican Republic or Nicaragua, Honduras. That is the more common blends.
And for our audience, which blend are you referring to for that?
The Chancellor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Such a special one.
Yeah. I will say is the most sophisticated blend that we ever create.
Yeah. And of course, that particular blend, we know that tobacco was one and done. So if you guys love that one, make sure you have a couple boxes on spare because that one's not coming back.
There's a reason because that cigar is limited.
Yeah.
That tobacco was limited and there's no way that we can replicate that cigar.
Yeah.
We can do something similar in the future, but nothing same.
No. Signature cigars. If someone wanted to understand your personality and the ADV philosophy through a single one of our blends, which one would you say sums us up the most and why?
I would say the King's Gold. The King's Gold is for me a perfect cigar, a unique, different. For me, King's Gold, it will separate everything. The King's Gold is the cigar that separates Aventura from the rest of the cigar industry. For me, it was a point of reference to create something completely different to anything else or flavor profile. The balance between strength and flavor, the color of the wrapper. It managed a big complexity and the scent of that cigar. Is unique in every single thing. Everything about that cigar is unique. But when it comes to the visual part, the label, the rings, is something that is completely different to what other cigar in the industry. It's a metal label, plain gold color, the wrapper, that dark kind of chocolate reddish color that is unique and beautiful and make you feel like you have a piece of chocolate you had. And you can tell like a bad cigar, it look rich.
Yeah.
It look rich.
Yeah.
And then when you taste the cigar, a smooth flavor with ice with a perfect amount of strength. And I think the King's Gold is that cigar that you can try that cigar for first time, and then someone can cover you the eyes and take the labels off and give you to try that cigar, and you can recognize that is a King's Gold. Yeah. It's unique, it's different, they have personality. He doesn't kill you with the strength, but he have a good amount of strength. I would say that's a cigar, it's a celebration cigar. And that's our signature. That's a cigar that represents Aventura all the way up.
That's so funny. I'm thrilled that you said that. And it just goes to show how aligned you and Marcel are, because I asked him the same thing and pretty much said, you know, if you were stuck on a desert island and you could only have one cigar for the rest of time, which one would it be? And he said King's Gold too. So, and he used very much those descriptions about that blend and how he felt about it and how it represented our brand in the same way. So I thought that was great. And I'll ask you the same thing for the last question for the episode today is, if you were stranded on a desert island and you could only grow one type of tobacco to work with, what would it be? And of course, if you could only smoke one cigar for the rest of your days, which one would it be?
That's a difficult one. I will say if there is a tobacco I can grow, I will say Automatico. And if there is only one cigar that I can smoke for the rest of my life, probably the Explorer.
Good one. Good one.
Yeah.
That one's a special one.
Yeah, because the Explorer is just remind me, is like a everyday cigar, any occasion. It's smooth, it's flavorful. You have the character. Because I will say the King's Gold is my cigar, my top cigar. But it's not a daily cigar. For me, that's a celebration cigar. It's like, for me, if I got out of the island, that was the first cigar that I got to pick to celebrate that I got out of the island, right?
Yeah.
But if I need to smoke like just one cigar, because for me, like the King's Gold, I cannot smoke that cigar at night. There's hardly nicotine. and I'm very sensitive with nicotine to go to sleep.
Okay.
And that Explorer, this is something that like in the morning, afternoon, no problem.
Yeah. And to be fair, just so our audience knows that when I say desert island, I mean like the perfect climate to grow tobacco type of desert island. And also, Henderson, just because for those of our listeners that may not know, what is automatico tobacco?
Automatico tobacco is a seed that we own that is a hybrid seed of Dominican or lower tobacco that is like the native seed for the Dominican Republic. Hybrid with something else, and this is something that we name it one of our company out of that tobacco because it's so special. The aroma of that tobacco is like a perfume. It have a better aroma of that tobacco. That's what we call it, automatico. And they have power, they have flavor, they have aroma. It's unique, and this is something that you cannot find that tobacco nowhere else.
Yeah.
So it's gonna be something that represent us.
Definitely. And I really appreciate you being a guest on our show today. And as we wrap up, is there anything that you want to tell our listeners before we close out?
Even if we're being a little bit quiet, ADVentura is gonna be here for a long time. I appreciate the support and the love that you guys been giving to us the whole time. In the Dominican Republic, and just working every day to create the best cigars as possible for you guys to enjoy. My passion for cigar is to get people to taste and enjoy what we can find here in our daily discovery, our daily research for tobacco, new way to do things, and we have the roll cigar, create blends, and I want as more people as possible to enjoy that.
Yeah.
And that was give me energy when I see people appreciating as we do. And I go like, wow, like we have done something right. People are enjoying the cigar very much. So thank you very much, guys. Thank you, Nicole, for having me in the show.
Absolutely.
And I'm looking forward to be back.
Great. Good. You definitely will be another featured guest because we're going to walk through each blend and dig a little deeper in those in the coming episodes. But until then, we want to say thank you guys so much for joining us and on this wonderful treasure hunt. And until next time, may your cigars be smooth, your moments intentional, and your perspective ever fresh.